When a heart stops breathing. The tragic story of Margaret and little Daniel. A young mother faces the unimaginable loss of her only child, a tragedy caused by the people she trusted the most. Broken, abandoned, and drowning in grief, Margaret must find the strength to rise from the ashes, rediscover her purpose, and learn to live again. This is a story about love, betrayal, and the painful road to healing.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
In a house where cheerful baby laughter once echoed, a heavy silence had settled. Little Daniel, only a year and a half old, had fallen ill unexpectedly. By evening, he was burning up with fever, his tiny body trembling in Margaret's arms. She walked around the room with him pressed tightly to her chest, as if love alone could bring him back to health. She called the family doctor, an older pediatrician who had known Daniel since birth. "There's nothing serious," he assured her calmly after examining the boy. "Just teething. Give him something for the fever. He'll feel better by tomorrow." Margaret nodded, but the knot of worry in her chest didn't loosen. A mother's heart always senses danger before anyone else. The fever didn't go down. Daniel's breathing grew heavier, and he barely reacted to her voice. Panic rising inside her, Margaret dressed quickly, wrapped her son in a blanket, and rushed downstairs to drive him to the hospital. But at the door stood her mother-in-law, Eleanor, a strict woman with a cold, commanding gaze. "And where do you think you're going?" she asked sharply, eyeing the baby. "More of your hysterical nonsense? I told you, it's just teething." "He's worse," Margaret whispered. "Something is wrong. I can feel it. I need to take him to another doctor." "You're not going anywhere," Eleanor snapped. "We're expecting important guests today. You need to help prepare lunch and set the table. Let Alex watch the child. He is the father, after all." Margaret clenched her jaw, feeling anger boiling inside her. But she had no strength left to argue. The house had been tense for months already. She gently handed Daniel to Alex. "Please, don't take your eyes off him," she begged. "I won't," he muttered tiredly. He had been up late working and looked exhausted. Guests were due to arrive soon, and Eleanor barked orders at her like she was hired help. But Margaret's mind wasn't in the kitchen. It was upstairs, in the nursery. She kept pausing, listening. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. When Eleanor sent her to put plates on the table, Margaret couldn't take it anymore. She hurried upstairs, barely remembering to wipe her wet hands on her apron. The nursery door was half open. Inside, silence. Alex sat in the armchair, head tilted back, sleeping. Margaret's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she walked toward the crib. Step by step, afraid to see, afraid not to, she leaned over, and the world collapsed. Daniel lay motionless, pale, cold. Margaret touched his cheek, and the icy stillness in his skin shattered her soul. Her scream tore through the house. Then everything went black as she fainted. When she regained consciousness, Her chest burned as if someone had torn it open. She couldn't breathe. She tried to sit up, but her body refused to move. All she could see in her mind was her little boy's face, the one she would never see smile again. Alex and Eleanor hovered nearby, pale and shaking. It was an accident?" Alex stammered. I fell asleep for a moment." Margaret looked at him with hollow, terrifying eyes. Eyes without tears. Eyes full of darkness. "You killed my son," she whispered. Eleanor started to babble excuses, but Margaret heard nothing. Only one thought beat inside her skull. It was their fault, their neglect, their indifference. Rage exploded inside her, wild and blinding. In that moment, she truly wanted to destroy them. To make them feel even a fraction of the pain tearing her apart. But she didn't. She couldn't. Instead, she screamed, "Get out, both of you! Get out of my house!" The important guests arriving at that very moment saw Alex and Eleanor stumbling out the door, pale and stunned, while Margaret stood in the hallway, barely holding herself up. That day, Margaret lost more than her son. She lost her family, her trust, her belief in love. But worst of all, she lost a part of herself she would never get back. The first hours after the tragedy, Margaret moved like a shadow. She held Daniel in her arms until the ambulance and police arrived. Doctors spoke softly. Neighbors whispered behind windows, but she heard nothing. When her baby's body was taken away, the silence in the house became unbearable. After the funeral, Margaret locked herself in Daniel's room. She sat on the floor for hours, holding his little plush elephant. It still smelled like baby cream. That alone was enough to break her every time. Alex tried to come in several times. "Meg, please, we need to talk," he whispered at the door. "Leave," she said flatly. He tried to apologize, to explain, to beg, but she stared past him with eyes full of endless grief. "My son trusted you," she said once, quietly. "And you couldn't even stay awake." Eleanor hired lawyers, terrified that Margaret would accuse them of negligence. But Margaret didn't care about courts or punishments. She cared about only one thing, something she could never get back. One night, while a soft rain tapped against the windows, Margaret stood in front of the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman staring back, pale, exhausted, eyes empty and red. She whispered to her reflection, "I have to live, at least for him." Those words didn't even sound like her own, but they lit a tiny spark inside. She took a box and began packing Daniel's things. Not to forget, but to finally breathe, even if it hurt. At dawn, she called her childhood friend, Lillian. "I need help," she said, barely holding her voice steady. Lillian came the same day. She hugged Margaret tightly, as if keeping her from falling apart. "You're not alone," she said softly. "And I won't leave you." For the first time in months, Margaret cried not from grief, but because someone was holding her together. Weeks passed. Margaret sold Alex and Eleanor's house. The place felt cursed, suffocating. Alex begged her to stay, swearing that he was broken too, that he wanted to fix everything. But something inside her had died alongside her son. "I can't be with you anymore," she told him calmly. "I don't blame you, but I'll never forgive you." He cried, but he didn't stop her. Margaret moved to another city. She began volunteering in a children's hospital. At first, it was agony. Every child reminded her of Daniel. But slowly, painfully, she found a small flicker of purpose. She read stories to sick children, knitted tiny socks for newborns, sat beside parents who were terrified of losing what she had already lost. Those children weren't her son, but they made her heart feel a little less empty. One evening, after finishing her shift, Margaret stood by a window in the hospital corridor. The sky outside was soft pink and blue, the same colors it was the morning Daniel was born. She pulled a small folded paper from her pocket, a letter she wrote to her son and carried with her every day. "My sweet boy, I live on not because the pain is gone, but because it has become part of me. You are the light that will never fade. I will try to carry that light to other children who need warmth and kindness. You were my beginning, and you will be my path forever." She folded the letter and kissed it. For the first time in many months, Margaret felt her heart beat again. Not the same as before, not without pain, but alive.